Hello and welcome to my first video on Kerbal Space Program. I'm going to be covering the docking on this particular video. The reason why I decided to do this is because I like to help other players, particularly new players, obviously, although I do help some more advanced players from time to time. But particularly new players who come to the Steam discussion pages and they haven't even got an idea of how to get off the ground yet, let alone put something massive into space and put it together. And yeah, so I'm going to boil this down into non-technical simplicity, or at least I hope anyway, because I've actually described how I dock to most people as it's as natural to me as getting into my car and driving to the shops. In fact, I almost fly my vessels in a very similar style. The only difference between driving a car and flying a vessel in orbit is the fact that a car can only move in its two dimensions: forwards, back, left, and right. Well, unless you're going up and down a hill, but that's not under the control of the car. That is the control of the geography of where you are, I suppose. If you want to go drive off a cliff, then I suppose you have a different idea of it. But I'm not encouraging anybody to go drive off a cliff to find this out. So yeah, a space vessel has the advantage of being able to move up and down as well as left, right, forwards, and backwards. So that's the only difference. So why is it in most other people's heads? I imagine some people are probably children, so they probably haven't got a driver's license. Totally get that. But there probably are people out there who drive a car, maybe professional drivers as well, like your HGV drivers, in America that's your big truckers, man, who have absolutely no idea when it comes to docking just how simple it can be. And you can actually make it as simple as driving a car. Quite literally. That's no joke. And I'll show you how. And it's as simple as keeping it simple, stupid. Love that acronym, KISS. Keep it, use it, always love it. Anyway, without further ado, I am going to, first of all, dock a small engine and fuel tank onto this worthless probe, because as eagle-eyed viewers have probably noticed this, there are no science experiments on this. I literally put this here for training purposes, and that is it. In fact, I even called it docking trainer, so that's all it's here for. So what we need now is, fuel tank and an engine. To send this somewhere to, I don't know, go fly past the Mun or possibly Minmus, send it out into an orbit, solar orbit, possibly via a gravity assist or something like that. But I'm not a technical guy. You will get no technicalities from me, so do not expect to hear words like prograde and retrograde and delta V. I'm not going to try and confuse you with stuff like that. I'm going to keep it as simple as your driving instructor would have given it to you in your car. That whole 1 pound distance and slowly release the clutch. Hey! Everybody remembers how to drive. So, first of all, we need a vessel. So I'm going to go down to the vehicle assembly building and put together the fuel tank and engine that is going to dock to this, and then send it somewhere else. Sending it somewhere else is not part of this video. This video is just literally to show you how I dock, why I think it's so simple, and possibly why you should give it a try yourself. Okay, so now we're back in the vehicle assembly building. I have quickly thrown together a very simple craft to go and dock with the probe in space. It is just a pug engine and a liquid fuel tank, simple as. We've got the fuel and the oxidizer in there and something to burn it and send things in that direction, simple as. We also have just tiny little solar panels which actually serve two functions, not just to power the craft. I will get round to that in a second. And a communitron that serves no other function than one, which is what I'm going to get around to in a second. Here we have the monopropellant to charge our RCS blocks. So the RCS blocks are what move us around in space, obviously. So we can go left, we can go right, we can go forwards, we can go backwards, and unlike a car with its limited 2 dimensions, we can also go up and down as well. So we have control of all 3 dimensions in space. So, why have I designed the craft like this? It's as simple as this, as I said before, keep it simple, stupid. You want to keep it as simple on yourself to understand when you're in space exactly what's going off at any given time. So if you need to react quickly, you can, because things happen. I've flown through my own solar panels before because I made a stupid mistake. You knock a solar panel off, oh good god, and revert flight, got to do the whole thing again, and it's annoying, it really is, but it's all about practice, basically. So as you can tell, I've oriented the camera here to a specific angle for a reason. So this is the view I will have of the spacecraft when it's in orbit. This is what I want to see. I want to see solar panels on either side and a communotron on top. That is the top of the space vessel. So if this were an airplane, those would be the wings, and that would be, we'll say that's where it wouldn't be where the canopy would be. There's not many aircraft that have the canopy, the cockpit, etc. that far back on the aircraft. There are a couple from World War II, I'm sure, but generally they're not that far back. However, this communotron is literally just indicative of this is the top of the aircraft. Now I know that when I'm in orbit, that if I press left, or the A key in my case, while I have docking mode enabled, of course, so you've got to remember when you're down here, bottom left, enable the docking mode. Otherwise, you when you press A, you're just going to spin. You're not actually going to move left. You're going to spin. So put your docking mode on, press A, you'll move left, and you'll keep moving left until you cancel out that momentum. So in space, when you're looking at an object relative in front of you, say these black panels between these 2 lights here, if I wanted to say the docking port was here, I know I'm to the right of the docking port, so I need to move left. So I need to press A, thrust over to that side, and when I get there, press D, the opposite direction, so now thrusting that way, so from right to left, to cancel out that momentum that I just applied. This way, I'll now be oriented to the docking port that's in front of me. So the docking port that was there should hopefully now be there instead. And all the while, I'm maintaining this particular orientation on my craft, like this particular camera angle on my craft, because it helps within your own mind. If you imagine trying to go out to your car one day to go down to the shops, and all of a sudden it was upside down, it would throw you completely. Obviously, if you went out to your car and it was upside down, the first thing you would probably want to do is call the police. However, if in an imperfect world you decided I need to drive, so I've got to figure out how to drive this upside down, you'd be thrown. Literally, you'd want to turn left and you'd end up turning right, etc. So you'd be totally thrown. So if I was to come at this from that angle, now my left is all of a sudden this way, sort of like to the northeast there. So that's no good. No good whatsoever. You always want to know exactly which way you're going to be going when you get there, because when you're 30-40 metres away from where your docking port is, if you all of a sudden don't know which way left and right is, you're going to have troubles. So, okay, so I think that's described the basics of how I make the craft so simple, and how I use various parts, etc., like the communotron and the solar panels, to give me a better understanding of how to orient my craft in orbit. The next part now, I suppose, is we're going to take this and we are going to get it into orbit, and we're going to go dock with the probe. Okay, and here we are in orbit with our small vessel, and as you can probably see, there is no probe in sight. What went wrong? Did something go wrong? No! The probe is all the way over here. Because, like most new players probably do in their earlier air quote careers, I suppose you would call them, of Kerbal Space Program, I launched too early. Or too late, whichever. It's always a common theme with new players, not understanding launch windows and stuff like that. So, as I said before, this is an instructional video for new players, and I am going to do this as though I was a new player, which, when you've been playing the game for quite a few years, it's quite a challenge. You tend to try and make mistakes that you used to make and make them work, and then think, how did I make this work back then? It just does not work now. So, how are we going to get back to the docking trainer? Actually, before I go into that, I would just like to point out, as you can see from the vehicle assembly building description, my vessel is the wrong way round, and oh no, which way's up, which way's down, oh no, oh look, it's this way. Done. See what I mean about that Communitron? It really helps. Now I know which way is up, which way is down, which way is left, and which way is right. Obviously we know which way forward and backwards is, we'd have to be dumb. But that obviously gives me the indication, hello, I am the top of the aircraft. I'm going to keep saying aircraft quite a lot. I know they're not aircraft, they are spacecraft. Unfortunately, I was an aviation enthusiast before I was a space enthusiast, so get used to it. You can use any part that you want for this, by the way. I mean, if you don't want a Communitron there because it's a cheap, horrible, tacky piece of junk, then don't worry about it. Use anything you want. As long as you have some sort of indication for this is the top. That's all you need, So, anyway, back to our map screen. And as I said before, docking trainer is all the way over there. I'm all the way over here. Now, I've already done the math, and I know that I'm getting away from it because my orbit is slightly lower than the docking trainer's. The docking trainer has a slightly higher orbit. Now, how do I work this out? I give my vessels an orbital value. Now, I don't know if this is how it's actually done in the real space world or not, but this is how I do it in my head to keep things as simple to me as possible. I give my vessels an orbital value. So, at the moment, I can see the apoapsis and periapsis of my vessel. Now, the basic rundown of apoapsis and periapsis: the apoapsis is the highest point you'll get to, and the periapsis is the lowest point you'll get to. It's obvious to see from those two numbers which one is higher and which one is lower. So, I'm not going to teach a granny to suck eggs on, numerical values. But I now add these together. Now, that 786 can just go on there and make that whole unit. 77 plus 76 is 153. Woohoo! So, docking trainer 2 has a orbital value of 153. Now, again, for you space technical nerds, just lay off me. I'm just trying to explain this, because I know this is probably not how it's done. Now, the docking trainer's orbital value. Now, you have to look for the yellower apoapsis and periapsis tags, because that's the value of your target. That's not you. The blue is your target, is you, and these yellower, mucousy looking ones, they do look horrible, don't they? It's a horrible colour. Those are the targets, apoapsis and periapsis. So now, I add these together. 81, we'll round that. Yeah, we'll round those down. 81, 75, that's 156. So now, with those values, I now have 153 of that value on my craft that I'm flying right now, and that has 156, which means that this thing has 3 points more than I currently have in my current vessel. So what does that mean? That means this thing is travelling further than this thing, which means that as you continue to go around Kerbin, you're going to keep slowly getting away from it. And further away from, until eventually you come back around the other side of the planet. But obviously the docking trainer is also moving around the planet. And that value of 3 means it could take months to catch back up with the docking trainer after I've gone back round again. You could literally go around Kerbin hundreds of times and you'll still not be there. The actual value that you catch up by will be so minuscule it will frustrate you. So what's the best way of doing it? Well, I need to make my value higher than the docking trainer's value. It's as simple as that. So I need to get higher. So how do we get higher? We just go prograde and we just burn a little bit. But I need to consider the values. Now, at the moment, the apoapsis there is 81 kilometers. So I don't want... If I want to go onto a catch-up, ideally, what I usually do is go about 2 to 3 kilometers above or below, depending where it is. If the docking trainer was ahead of me, I'd go below. Because it's behind me, I need to go above. So again, think about how the track worked back in school. The inner ring was 400. Inner lane, sorry, was 400 meters. The second lane would be ever so slightly longer than 400 meters, and this is why they have staggered start positions for like the 200 meters, etc. So he's behind me. I need to go higher. So I don't want this value to go roughly about 82, 83. And its periapsis is 75. So I'm actually good on my periapsis at the moment, roughly. But I want to add a good 5 or 6 kilometers, maybe 7, to my apoapsis. Now, there are probably more specific times of when you should do this, but for the sake of just doing it, we're just going to do it. So, I'm going to warp somewhere close to my periapsis, cancel it out there. Now, as you can see, I've only got 9 meters a second of delta V left in this fuel, etc., which is not going to get me very far at all. Maybe it might get me to where I need to go, though. 1, 2, 3. So now we've got to 83 to 76. So now I'm 2 above there, and I'm roughly 1 above there, and about 2.3 above there. So now the docking trainer will be catching up with me all the time, because I am now travelling further around my orbit than the docking trainer is. So I'm running a further distance around the track constantly. That's the way you've got to think about intercepts if you are that far away from your target. Okay, so the next part to do is actually get to the docking trainer and just show you how you actually drive a space vehicle like a 3-dimensional car. And here we are within some sort of reasonable distance of the docking trainer, still catching up on me. So this next part of the video I may ramble a little bit. I do apologise, I am known for it. So I am going to have to do this in one take because there are no do-overs. I do not believe in quick saving in this game. I believe it's cheating. I hate cheating in games, so if you're not going to do something right first time, don't bother doing it. That's my opinion. Everybody's got their own opinion on games. I mean, do what you want. You do you. So, hopefully, we're not going to cock this up because otherwise I'm going to have to do this all again from launch, and that will suck. So, I'm about closing in on 20 kilometers away from the docking trainer. My closest point of separation round the corner there is 26.3. That means at some point I'm probably going to start getting away. Now, I can either... I suppose I could skip to here for 6.5 kilometers. That would be better, wouldn't it? Now, am I going to be ahead? Yes, I'm going to be slightly ahead, so we will just warp here for now. Now, the biggest thing about docking is keep you cool. You know, just like when you get into a car for the first time, the worst thing you can do is panic. Panic causes more grief than it actually solves. You know, I mean, it's a natural human instinct to panic when things go wrong, and usually those who panic, you've seen films, they're usually the first to die. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to separate our... There we go. Separate that carrier module from our vessel. Now I'm 6.4 kilometers away and still closing ever so gradually. So I want to go to my target, and remembering what I said before about keeping the vessel aligned in such a way that it reminds you of, if you think of like your racing games, you're never at, well, you've got the option to be inside the vehicle, but let's face it, the majority of players usually race from outside the car. Same principle here. We're just going to be racing from outside the car. Now, there's my target. You see I've changed things to target here. All you've got to do is keep clicking that little panel there and you'll get to target. Now this speed here is the speed that I'm catching up to, it's the speed relative to what I'm targeting. Now that means at the moment I'm moving at 30.5 meters a second. In what direction do we wonder? Well, we've got to figure that out. Which way is prograde? Well, prograde is just slightly over there, so it's slightly down and right of where the target is. So I'm actually moving further down and right of the target at a constant rate. How do we cancel this out? So now that I know I'm down and right, I know I need to basically go up and left. So with the RCS on and docking mode active, first of all, we're just going to go to the left. Now I'm pressing A here, and as you can see, the thrusters are thrusting out to the left. I was also a bit down, so I need to come up a bit. And as you can see from this little indicator here, I'm getting closer and closer and closer just by using RCS. We get an idea of where. So now it's just ever so slightly down. And more right than it is anything else. Just going to thrust forwards a bit to give myself some momentum. And as you can see, the prograde, this is the direction that you're going. Prograde is the direction you are pointing and the direction that you are going. Well, it's not the direction that you're pointing unless you are literally pointing prograde. But as you can see, I have aligned it up with the target. That now means I am travelling towards the target. Now, I will not intersect the target at this speed. I need to be going much faster. However, as you keep going around the orbit, you will notice that the prograde vector keeps deviating away from your target. When you're docking, you always want to have target selected so that you know you're pointing directly at your target. There are many other ways of docking, by the way. I know that a lot of people use the burn towards target, turn around, retrograde. I'll turn the RCS off so I don't waste the fuel there. That was an accident. They'll burn that way and then they'll go back to the target and they'll do that and they'll burn this way and then, oh no, I need to burn that momentum off. Now I've got to go this way and then back to the target. There's one way of doing it, but generally you're going to use a liquid fuel setup, some sort of chemical liquid fuel setup to do that, with the engine that I decided to get rid of, which is now down there. Too late for that. It only had 4 meters of Delta V left anyway, so it's ruined. So you got, with the RCS option, you need to obviously know how much RCS you've got. At all times, ideally, this is always a good idea, so that you don't waste any. I may have to enable God mode at some point, because looking at that 16 monopropellant I've already used, I'm not sure I'll be able to do this. Anywho, I have deviated off course already, which means I'm now going around to the left and slightly high. So, RCS back on, a bit further down, and to the right. And every time I make one of these manoeuvres, the target will come down and down and down. I don't know why it just disappeared there, it's gone on me. But that was another few points of monopropellant. I'm going to try and do this a bit faster. There we go, 1.5 kilometers, 1.4. Now, I am going to time warp just a little bit here, because otherwise it gives me a segment to waffle, and that's no good for anybody's ears. So just get there a little bit quicker. We're about 2.5 minutes away now. And if at any point you feel, yeah, the prograde's getting a bit too far away now, just bring it back. Every now and again, just stop and bring it back. And every time you do, so we've gone from what was that, like 1.4 kilometers down to 0.3. So we're now within an extremely close intercept point now, and it's getting smaller and smaller as and we're now down to 0.2. So in about 2 minutes, I'm going to be in a very close area of the probe that I need to dock to. We'll just time warp a little bit closer. Till we're about 1 minute away. 80, 70-ish, and that'll do it. Okay, so I'm now coming up on the target at about 15 meters a second, and as anybody who knows, that is not a good intercept speed. I will crash straight through it. Docking, in my opinion, has... Sometimes what you dock with needs to be gentle. So in the case of larger, heavier parts that you're docking onto a station that's consisted, say if you were trying to dock something the mass of Starship to the International Space Station, you wouldn't be able to do it very roughly because the mass of Starship would just shake the International Space Station apart probably. You've got to go in very gently. And just allow the magnets to do the work, basically. However, in some cases, it might be prudent to ram it on in there, you know, just get it in there. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but generally, fastest speeds for docking I've ever performed is probably about 1.5 meters, 2 meters a second, no faster. It depends on the part, it depends on the station, etc., whatever you're trying to dock to. Yeah. So now we are 2.5 minutes away because I slowed down too much. We'll just go a bit faster. So I think this has got the thrust to weight ratio just a break on time. Get ourselves right. Now when I get there, I'm not just going to dock straight to it. That's too easy. I'm going to fly around it a bit and show you just why it's so easy, and I've waffled too much and possibly missed it. No, we're good, we are good. Right, so I'm just going to come to a rough stop there. So there's the station, it's not the station, it is a probe, if we can find it, and first thing to do, we need to set the docking port as the target. Because even, I mean, in this particular case, you would be able to get away with not setting the docking port as the target, because the target that you were targeting before, which would be the drone core here, the Probodyne there, it's in line and too close to the docking port, so you wouldn't really need to do anything. But on the case of larger space vessels, particularly when you have multiple docking ports, you will need to select the actual docking port that you want to dock to. I will be honest with you, I don't always do this. Sometimes I just fly up to it and just dock to it without using any targeting methods whatsoever, and it is because of my ability to dock. So, how do I dock? So, first of all, I'm going to put myself over to the left. Now, you see how easy I'm doing this, by the way. I know I'm going left. And all the time, provided that you are targeting, you'll still be targeting that docking port. And that puts us roughly... yeah. So now we're stood still again. And now I'm going to move to the right of it. But I can also move up. And no matter which way I go, as long as I keep that same orientation on the vessel. And right now, I'm not doing this by watching the nav ball. In fact, I can turn off the nav ball. I'm just watching the orientation of the vessel to the vessel that I'm trying to dock to. Okay, so I'm not using any of that. Oh, is the pro grade matched up with the targeting vessel anymore? Oh no. I know at any time. Oh, I need to go left a bit. Oh, and right a bit because I just added that momentum. Okay, so now we're getting close. But you see, most people will also think, oh, but you're coming in too fast. Yeah, I can account for that as well because I can see those values coming in. Okay, so as you get closer, you'll start to notice, am I too far left? Am I too far right? Am I too far up or down? Now I noticed I was too far high there. So it's just a small thrust in the opposite direction. It's as simple as driving a car. Boom. It's as simple as that. And I could perform this 100 times over. As you see, I did that without the nav ball just by using my eyes. You know, using those gifts that were given to you from birth. Use your eyes. Use your it is a bit of common sense. You know, I'm not trying to belittle anybody who finds this difficult by saying, you know, oh, it's just common sense and therefore you have none. I totally get why this is difficult. Believe me, I did not ever dock like this in the first instance. Nobody would have. Everybody would have tried this multiple different ways, tried the tutorial, failed it 100 times. In the same way that most people who tried to go to the moon for the first time, or the mun in this game, probably just tried pointing a rocket at the mun and just going, burn. You know, everybody tries the same things first. So unless you have somebody there to say, this detail, that detail, you tend to find things a little bit difficult. I did. And the problem I had going all over YouTube was a lot of YouTubers like to add in the technicalities of everything. Like I said, I am not a technical guy. I can be if I want to, but I can take things that are dumbed down and dumb them down even more. I like to do that because there's always a simpler way of doing things. Like I said, keep it simple, stupid. It is my acronym. I love it. It's not my acronym. I don't own it. You know, somebody else probably came out with it, but yeah. So anyway, that is docking as simple as I can make it. And at any time, I can quite happily just undock this. I think, yeah, I'll just go for a fly around the station, you know, if this were a station. Okay, so we are going to need our little... I have no target. Why does Kerbal Space Program do this? We'll do it manually. I don't know. Right, so at any time, go for a little fly around just because why not? This is Kerbal Space Program. We can do anything we want. I just want to fly around the back to make sure that that battery is doing okay from the back for absolutely no reason other than I can. I'll just quite happily fly around. Most of these controls, by the way, that are going off are by the automatic SAS system going off there, trying to keep me aligned with that docking port. And there we go, just had a circle around. And then we're going to dock again. There was nothing wrong with the battery, we're all good. Coming home. Always make sure that your vessels are aligned. So there's absolutely no point coming in at an angle, you know, the flatter you can keep your docking ports together when they meet, the better. Sometimes you'll bounce. I can't remember now, my memory is so short. I think I bounced on the first docking attempt, didn't I? I can't remember. But the second one, as you saw there, that was perfectly in line. Boom, they went straight together. No issues whatsoever. And as I said, going back to the baser details of why I've put this video together, is just to keep things as simple as possible without going into too much technical jargon, and just saying, drive your vessels like a car. Think of it more like a car, only you have the control of up and down as well as left and right, backwards and forwards. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope somebody out there may find this useful. If you need any other help on any other things, you can either comment on it below or just get in touch with me. I can describe most things in the game in this sort of baser element. As I said, I do like to make things as simple as possible, and I do feel in the past, in fact I know in the past, I've helped a lot of people achieve basic goals that they weren't able to do before on their own, because a lot of the technical jargon is way beyond most of us, even myself in most cases. However, I've stuck with it and learnt as much as I can, and then still been able to boil it down to basic dummery. So, okay, we can now take this, get rid of that. And if we wanted to, this is now a vessel to go wherever I want to with 4,464 meters a second. Now, I said fly by the moon or Minmus. I actually overcalculated what I could do with this, apparently, didn't I? So 4,464 meters, I could probably go anywhere I want with this now. It's a shame that there are no scientific experiments on board. Oh well.